I stumbled upon a cursed witch's basket filled with terrifying secrets from the other side. I never should have opened that door. A chill crept down my spine, gnawing at my gut like a hungry beast. My heart raced in my chest, pounding louder than the storm brewing outside. I was just an ordinary person, caught in my mundane routine, thinking the worst thing to happen today would be a work email gone wrong. It happened when I walked down the dimly lit hallway, shadows blending together in the corners. The air felt heavy, thick with whispers I couldn't quite discern. It was like stepping into a different world, one where the very walls seemed alive. My fingers brushed against the cold doorknob. The door was old, creaking like it remembered secrets long buried. I hesitated for just a moment, but curiosity clawed at me, dragging me inside. The darkness enveloped me. The scent of damp earth mixed with something sweet, almost like rotting flowers. Every breath felt like an intrusion. What lay before me was the basket, intricately woven, draped in an eerie, shimmering cloth. It pulsed with a faint, ghostly glow. I leaned closer, captivated and terrified all at once. Inside, scattered remnants of twisted memories waited. Bones, small and delicate, glistened against the darkness like polished stones. Tiny dolls, their glassy eyes staring blankly, seemed to trace my every move. Then I heard it. A soft rustle, as if something shifted within the basket, something that definitely didn't want to be discovered. My stomach twisted with fear. I felt the room close in around me. Was I truly alone? The shadows danced and flickered, moving like they had minds of their own. Panic clawed at my throat, and I froze. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, but a deeper sound thrummed in the silence. A low growl, barely noticeable at first, crept out from the basket. My breath caught, my chest tightened. I stepped back, the floor creaking beneath my weight, but something pulled me forward, the intoxicating allure of the unknown wrapping around my mind. Suddenly, the lights flickered angrily, plunging me into darkness. I stumbled, heart racing, desperate to escape, but the door had slammed shut. I was trapped. The weight of unseen eyes locked onto me. The whispering grew louder, swirling around, indecipherable yet haunting. My fingers trembled, and I reached for the basket again. What if there was something I needed to know? Just as that thought crossed my mind, a figure shot up from the depths of the basket, a grotesque silhouette coming to life. My scream lodged in my throat. I tried to turn away, but my feet felt glued to the floor, paralyzed by fear. And in that moment of terror, everything fell silent. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence shattered like glass, immense and suffocating. I thought the figure emerging from the basket was a trick of the light, a grotesque illusion conjured by my spiraling panic. But as it slowly formed, every detail seared into my memory. Skeletal limbs stretched unnaturally, skin with the ashen hue of stone, eyes that flickered like dying stars. Something within me screamed to run, yet dread wrapped around my lungs like a vice, squeezing tighter with every breath. The figure's mouth opened wide, revealing a void where a tongue should have been. No sound emerged, only the stench of decay washed over me, threatening to drown me in an ancient sorrow. Leave it seemed a whisper, yet it vibrated through my bones, reverberating like a thunderclap in an empty chamber. You shouldn't have come before I could fully comprehend its meaning. The air shifted violently. The room expanded and compressed, a pulse of its own, gravitating towards the basket as if it were a black hole. The dolls began to twitch, their glassy eyes now alive with malice, their tiny mouths stretching into sinister grins, revealing teeth like shards of glass. The basket quivered, and from its depths, shadows spilled forth, emerging as elongated tendrils that slithered across the floor toward me. My instinct screamed that it was time to escape. I lunged toward the door, ready to throw my weight against it. But my fingertips brushed the knob, and it abruptly twisted, locking me in place. "Help me!" I screamed, an echo of desperation that died in the air. The pounding of the storm outside grew rhythmically chaotic, as if the fury of nature joined the paranormal tumult within the room. The shadows coalesced into forms that mocked humanity, faces twisted in anguish and desire, whispering sweet promises laced with venom. These were not the lost souls I'd read about, they were something else starved for recognition or revenge. One of the dolls detached from the basket, hopping on one leg, eyes locked onto mine. Its wooden limbs creaked with each movement, and it giggled softly, a sound that sent icy fingers crawling across my neck. "Stay and play," it cooed, its voice the sound of breaking glass. "We haven't had a visitor in so long." As if punctuating its invitation, the thunder roared louder, shaking the very foundation of the house. The walls moaned, whispering secrets that clawed at the back of my mind. I felt an odd sense of attachment to this entity, a twisted connection forged in fear that tried to worm its way into my heart. The figure loomed close, its breath a fetid mix of rot and despair. The lights above flickered again, casting long shadows that swallowed the ghastly whispers. I felt a tugging at my consciousness, memories I thought were long forgotten resurfacing like shadows pulled from the abyss. I was losing myself, drifting away from the comfort of reality. "No," I murmured, shaking my head violently, trying to dispel the fog of influence wrapping around me. Then I saw movement to the side, something darting behind the basket, a flash of deep crimson. My breath halted again, pounding full of panic, eyes drawn to that blood-red shimmer. It became apparent that in this confounding mix of horror, something far worse awaited. Was it another being trapped, or had this netherworld been weaving a tapestry of despair that beckoned forth cannibalistic desires? Drawing a deep breath, I steeled myself, trying to shake off the enchantment binding me, but the shadows surged toward me as if they had heard my thoughts. The doll's laughter swelled, a mocking symphony that danced in tandem with the growl that emanated from the figure. And then, silence fell again. But not for long. With sudden, jarring clarity, the door behind me ripped open, revealing murky shadows extending into the hallway, beckoning with grotesque allure. In the thickening darkness, I could hear the faintest whispers, clamoring for freedom yet drenched in malice. Before my fear subsided even a fraction, I felt it, a cold hand gripping my ankle, the touch exuding a chill that threatened to consume my very essence. I spun around, horrified to meet the doll's gaze once more, this time sporting a horrifically wide grin, holding my leg with the strength of the damned. I stumbled, desperately trying to pull free, but the shadows clawed at me, the whispers intensified, and in that chaotic moment, a heart-stopping realization struck. The door wasn't an escape but a portal, a threshold leading deeper into the horrors that awaited. And as I was pulled down into that consuming darkness, a new scream left my lips, one mingled with laughter and cries, but it wasn't mine. It echoed everywhere, spiraling into madness. Then, suddenly everything went black. When the darkness released its grip, I gasped, every breath a stutter of terror filling my lungs. I lay sprawled on what felt like carpet, a memory faded and worn, chilled to the bone. Echoes of laughter bounced around me, distorted and grotesque, almost as if I had tumbled into another world entirely. My heart raced, flooding my veins with a paralyzing dread. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust to the dimness that swallowed everything. Where was I? The oppressive shadows loomed, intertwining and swirling like a living cloud. My fingers brushed against the coarse fibers beneath me, and I dared to look around. It was a room, yet it was mapped by despair. The walls shimmered with dampness, illuminated intermittently by flickering candles that dripped black wax, pooling like blood on the floor. A sickle-sweet aroma filled the air, reminding me of something once familiar, now arid and rotten. I pulled myself to a seated position, my eyes scanning the corners. They were alive with movement, flickering between sinister shapes and fleeting hints of nightmare. "You should have stayed," a sing-song voice drifted from my left, wrapping around me like the embrace of a predator. I turned cautiously, finding the source of the voice a small doll with crystalline eyes that seemed almost too large for its head. Its porcelain skin was cracked, dark veins snaking down its cheeks, and it was grinning, its smile stretching impossibly wide. "I am here now," I replied, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" "I want," it echoed, a bubble of rich laughter. "We want to play. So long since we've had a fresh soul to celebrate with." Play. The word twisted in my mind like a thorn. Suddenly, the shadows nestled in the corners breathed, a low growl forming a chorus that rumbled through the floorboards and chilled my blood. I scrambled to stand, my heartbeat thunderous in my ears. The doll's laughter tainted the air, transforming into a cacophony that filled the room. It felt alive, writhing with hunger and glee. Your soul is so ripe, so eager for fear. The doll chuckled, its voice sweet with malice. Join us, be one of us. Before I could figure out how to escape, the walls shimmered again, pulsing like a heartbeat. Images flared into existence, frantic faces clawing at the surface, mouths moving but no sound emerging. I recognized one of those faces. It was a girl I had seen years ago, lost in an old abandoned school where rumors of paranormal play had echoed through the halls. "Help!" Her lips whispered, desperation etched in her ghostly visage, before fading back into the darkness. A jolting shock of energy coursed through me. I staggered, bumping against a cold, damp wall, my heart racing faster than I thought humanly possible. I could hardly breathe, terror gripping my throat like a vice. Where was the way out? Where was the door I had entered? "Ready?" the doll asked. "Our games have only just begun." With a sudden burst of will, I turned and sprinted, plunging deeper into the heart of this forsaken place. There was no more time for fear. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I dashed through winding passages wrapped in darkness, the laughter of the dolls haunting my every step, but as I ran, the shadows grew bolder, whispering secrets of the lost, drawing closer. I could feel cold fingers nipping at my heels, brushing against my ankles like a gentle caress, turning malicious, threatening to drag me back into that realm. "Stay, stay. We just want to play," they sang in unison. Then I lunged into a vast, open chamber, illuminated by an eerie flicker from an overhead chandelier swaying like it was struggling to escape. The walls were draped with strange tapestries depicting scenes of torment, and on the floor, a circle of dolls stood, their glassy eyes unblinking. At the center lay a glimmering object, a heart, pulsing weakly with a dull light, encased in a cocoon of shadows. As I stumbled closer, the heart throbbed violently. The moment I reached out, a tidal wave of energy surged around me, and the emptiness of every lost soul resonated in my bones. I looked back at the dolls, who now surrounded me, their eyes radiating pure malice. "Now you are one of us," they shrieked, the circle closing tighter, laughter mingling with screams, the shadows coiling like serpents ready to strike. Just as their voices crescendoed into a terrifying symphony, the heart in my hand shattered, releasing a blinding light that ripped through the darkness. The light pulsed, and for a moment, time stood still, but the instant before the brightness consumed everything, a shadow leaped from the corner, a massive figure coalescing from the dark. It pointed a skeletal finger at me, whispering in an ancient tongue, filled with promises of freedom sworn in blood. I felt the air shift with its presence, thick and suffocating, and I realized I had not escaped, but had simply awakened the true horror. Then, without warning, the chamber imploded into darkness once again, the ground falling away beneath me, a yawning abyss swamping the remnants of reality. My final scream echoed hollowly, and then silence cloaked everything once more. Falling into the void, I flailed, grappling with nothingness as it threatened to consume me. It wasn't until I hit the ground, a soft, unsettling thud, that I realized I was no longer in the chamber. I gasped for air, my surroundings transforming rapidly, solidifying into a dense fog that stung my eyes and filled my lungs with acrid staleness. The atmosphere was thick, a heavy blanket of despair shrouded everything. As I squinted through the fog, the blurs of trees loomed around me. Gnarled branches stretched out like skeletal fingers, and the ground squished beneath my feet, muck dragging at my shoes with every tentative step. The stillness was oppressive, the kind that pressed down on you like a lead weight, and somehow, I could feel it whispering secrets of ancient dread. "Come closer," a voice coaxed, warped and ethereal, rising from the shadows of the trees. "Don't you want to know?" I froze. The ghostly voice twined around me like a vine, twisting into my mind. My heart thrummed in my chest. Was I meant to follow? Against all better judgment, I stepped deeper between the trees, the foliage curling around me, ensnaring me with every step. The air grew thicker, more electric, sending goosebumps racing across my skin. An unsettling chill swept through the woods, wrapping around my neck as if a pair of icy hands pressed against my throat. I stumbled forward, limbs heavy, the very ground pulling me down with insistent gravity. Just as I crossed into a small clearing, the whispers intensified, granting the fog a sentience of its own, making it twist and writhe like a living beast. Before me lay a haunting sight, a wicker basket, ornate yet sinister, perched on a pedestal of twisted roots. Its craftsmanship was exquisite, adorned with runes glowing faintly, pulsating like a heartbeat. An overwhelming urge to approach it washed over me, yet the instinct to flee pulled equally at my core. Secret keeper, the voice purred again, this time laced with honeyed malice. What treasures lie within? And nervously, I reached out to touch the cool surface of the basket. Instantly, wicked laughter erupted all around me. No longer the merry confusion of dolls but something much darker, more primal. It slithered between the trees and into my mind, suggestions filled with venom and sedation. Open it, they chorused, and come face to face with what was lost. I hesitated, my heart thundering a protest. But the moment my fingers brushed the woven reeds, the basket began to shake violently, rattling with an insistent life of its own. The fog thickened, twisting into tendrils, drawing closer, wrapping around me, and I felt the warmth of something old and forbidden working its way through the air. Without thinking, I clamped my hand down on the lid, willing it to stop, but a pulse echoed beneath my palm as the basket began to hum a low, eerie song vibrating through the very marrow of my bones. I choked back a scream, my spirit flaring in desperate defiance. Let it out, let it out! The voices shrieked, manic glee constructing a macabre symphony. It was intoxicating, pulling at threads of my very being until something primordial clawed back from within me. In a moment of clarity, I ripped the lid open, heart racing with dread. A foul stench of decay erupted into the fog, overwhelming my senses as shadows spiraled up and out, reaching for me, clutching at my clothes. From within, I glimpsed a pulsating black void that housed writhing silhouettes, racked with agony and fury. The shadows spilled forth, swirling around me and revealing half-formed visages of people, some familiar, some not, their eyes wide with sorrow, trapped in a realm of eternal torment. I gasped as I recognized them, friends, family, ashen faces I had thought lost to time. No! I screamed, but they only wept silently, their mouths stretching in perpetual murmurs, echoing pleas of betrayal that chilled my heart. I staggered back, but it was too late. The shadows coalesced around me, forming eyes that glowed with sinister hunger, poised to devour my very essence. Free us or join us! They cried, despair intertwining with dark promise, burning into my soul. A rush of wind swept through the trees, howling a sinister lament that rattled the very air. Suddenly, a figure loomed beyond the fog, the same skeletal presence that had haunted me. The very essence of darkness flickered in its form, a broken silhouette of a once living soul now wholly transformed into something far worse. Choose wisely, it hissed, the air around me crackling with power, as the shadows roared in anticipation of my decision. In that moment of infinite dread, the weight of their suffering bore down on me, and a single thought flickered across my mind: some sacrifices are meant to be made. And then, with a surge of madness cascading through the fog, everything ruptured. A scream erupted from my lips as the ground split open beneath me, pulling me toward an abyss darker and deeper than I had ever known. I was bottomless, falling into a void where echoes of tortured exchanges became the only company in an arena of eternal suffering, unsure of what lay at the bottom or if I would ever return. I awoke with a jolt, the sensation of weightlessness disappearing. My back collided with cold, damp earth that clung to me like a shroud, the rancid smell of rot filling my nostrils. I sat up, disoriented, panic spiraling as I fought to process what had just happened. The whispering shadows had vanished, but a multitude of voices lingered in my head, an endless echo of despair. I struggled to my feet, legs trembling, and scanned my surroundings. A flickering twilight cast the world in strange hues, bathing the landscape in shades of violet, as if the sun were reluctant to rise or set entirely. The trees stood tall, their gnarled branches now reminiscent of twisted fingers reaching out, beckoning me toward something unseen. As my breath steadied, my eyes caught movement at the edge of the clearing. Bursting through the fog, a figure darted from shadow to shadow, too swift for me to identify. Heart racing, I followed instinctively, despite the warning bells clanging in my head. Every step echoed with dread, the ground wet and unstable, sucking at my shoes as if the earth itself wished to claim me. Help me, the figure croaked, their voice raspy, full of pain. Please help me. It was a strange blend of desperation and urgency that gripped my heart, and I stumbled forward, drawn by a force I couldn't fathom. As I rounded a massive willow tree, the figure came into clearer view, revealing a pale woman, her hair strung with twigs and dirt. Her eyes flickered with terror, darting back toward the shadows behind her. "They're coming!" she gasped, her voice quaking with raw fear. "You must help. We don't have much time. What are you?" I asked, breathless from the whirlwind of emotions. Her gaze flitted between me and the encroaching darkness. "I was like you once. I was trying to escape. But the darkness comes for all who tread too deep." Her face twisted in anguish. "They will take you too if you do not act," a guttural growl rumbled from behind the trees, shaking the ground beneath my feet. My body went cold as a hideous creature emerged, a mass of tangled limbs and faces that screamed yet emitted no sound. They twisted and turned, the shadows morphing into a tangible nightmare, the same phantoms I had glimpsed before, drowning in my mind. "Run!" The woman shrieked suddenly, launching towards me, dragging me with a grip that was both fierce and fragile. I stumbled after her, the creature's form slithering through the air with unnatural grace, sharp teeth glinting in the fading light as it pursued us. The mist thickened again, coiling around my ankles like spectral serpents, threatening to pull me back into the depths of despair. My heart hammered as the woman's fingers tightened around my wrist. "You must help anchor them. You must end the cycle." "What do you mean?" I gasped, desperation clawing at me. How? Her eyes filled with tears as she spun to face me, casting a glance back at the approaching nightmare. "You must confront the past. The basket holds the key. It must be reopened, and the secrets revealed. Only then will we all be free. But the darkness will fight. It knows you are coming. I can't." I watched the creature draw closer, its eyes locking onto mine with a malevolent hunger. "What if I know?" she shouted, her face illuminated by despair. "We are not alone. The ones who have lost everything. If we can synchronize our remorse, we can forge a new path." In that moment, the clearing exploded with the echo of 1,000 anguished cries, overwhelming and deafening. The shadows around us surged forward, swallowing the air and distorting reality into an unbearable cacophony. The creature lunged, and I stumbled back as it barreled first toward her. "Run!" she screamed again, shoving me forward with a fierce determination. As I turned to flee, feet pounding against the soft earth, terror wrapping around my heart like icy talons. I darted back to the clearing, the remnants of the basket now faintly glowing, as if it awaited my return. With every step, the voices crescendoed, drowning out my thoughts, threatening to collapse my will. Desperation clawed at me, each breath was a battle against the encroaching shadows, the screams of those lost fueling the horror that danced on the edge of my sanity. As I reached the wicker basket, I leaned in, heart racing. The air around me hummed, vibrating with danger, and in that disorienting moment, I knew I had to face what lay inside once more. I steadied myself, grasped the lid, and prepared to confront the horrors sealed within. But before I could twist it open, the chilling voice of the woman echoed back to me, distorted and twisted by pain. "Remember, you can either reveal your past or be consumed by it." And just then, a thunderous roar resounded through the clearing, the shadows converged, a wall of darkness closing in, and I realized with utter horror that I was not alone. They were coming for me, and whatever I unleashed from the basket would be my only chance at escape or my final undoing. In that crucial instant, I hesitated, the vessel before me trembling with the weight of eternity. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, and when I felt the sticky hands of desperation clutching at my throat, a primal scream erupted from the depths of my existence. The moment I released the basket's lid, the world exploded into chaos, darkness swelling like a storm, ready to swallow me whole. Chaos erupted around me as the lid of the basket flew open with a creak that resonated deep within my bones. A thick mist billowed forth, swirling in tendrils that clawed at my skin and filled my lungs with a rancid, bitter taste. The voices intensified, those of the damned beckoning for release, their cries twisting into an unsettling symphony that reverberated in the very marrow of my being. I fell back as the mist engulfed me, sinking my feet into the earthy floor and wrapping around my ankles like chains. The nightmarish creature surged forward, its grotesque visage illuminated by the dim, flickering light of the clearing. The ground shuddered as if the very earth was alive with the horror it concealed. I glanced back at the basket in time to see a shadow separate from the mist, swirling with purpose, revealing a shape once hidden, something glowing and organic, yet horrific a heart.it pulsed rhythmically like a living thing, beating against the stillness of the encroaching night. "Feed me," the heart whispered, a voice laced with an otherworldly allure. "Sever the tether that binds you to this realm." A shiver coursed through me, each beat of the heart echoing my own pulse, pulling at the very essence of my being. I had ventured into a place where time and reality warped, governed by the wishes and regrets of countless souls. The heart beckoned with a magnetic force, promising freedom from the darkness if only I could prove worthy. Behind me, the creature howled, a sound that reverberated in my skull, shrieking hunger and madness. It lunged, its gnashing teeth descending toward me, glimmering under the dim light like daggers poised to bury themselves in flesh. Instinctively, I raised my arms to shield myself just as the heart erupted from the mist, throbbing with luminescence that chased the shadows back into the recesses of the woods. "Take it!" the heart urged, its voice laced with urgency, pleading, as though it knew the torment that lay ahead. "Claim the knowledge, or become one with them." I felt a surge of power coursing through me. Terror turned into anger, anger morphed into determination. As if responding to my resolve, the heart emitted a blinding light, encasing me and the basket in an ethereal glow. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as if burned by the radiance. With an impulse I couldn't explain, I reached out, fingers brushing against the heart's smooth surface. The moment I made contact, the air crackled, and visions exploded before my eyes, faces twisted in anguish, memories long buried clawing their way back into consciousness. I felt their pain coursing through me, a symphony of suffering, loved ones lost, betrayals etched in flesh, promises broken like glass. I could feel the weight of regret threatening to crush me, to drown me in an abyss with the shadows of the past. "Release us!" They cried in an echo of harmony, their spectral forms swirling, merging into the heart's light, filling it with color and emotion, a grotesque tapestry of life and death. The shadows howled in fury, and the creature lunged, now desperate, its visage stretching in a marionette's frenzy, seeking to snatch me from the heart's embrace. Do it. Make the choice. The heart urged again, its voice now a mantra, a hypnotic plea that pierced the chaos. It pulsed, resonating with the verses of the damned, entwining our destinies in a dance of light and shadow. Each heartbeat sang with desperation, "You must remember and forgive." In that moment, a consciousness shifted within me, a thread snapped as memories collided violently. From somewhere deep inside, a name emerged, a face formed, an accusation burned like a brand: "Sophia." I gasped, eyes wide as images flooded back the warmth of our shared laughter, her soft, kind eyes, the last moment we had together twisting like a knife in my heart. I had abandoned her, failed to save her when the darkness came. My heart raced as understanding surged. It wasn't just about confronting the shadows, it was about confronting myself. With newfound clarity, I gritted my teeth, channeling the essence of the light as my voice rose, echoing through the clearing. "I forgive you, Sophia. I forgive you." But just as the words fell from my lips, the creature lunged with a final, desperate intent, breaking through the radiant barrier, teeth bared and eyes wide with madness. The heart resisted, contracting against the pressure. The shadows around me surged with vengeance, hungry for the choice I had begun to make. The heartbeat slowed, the harmony faltered, and I felt myself teeter on the brink of oblivion. And then, everything stopped. An unholy silence surrounded me as the darkness coiling around the ground fell still. My heart thundered like a war drum in my chest, caught suspended in torment, and that was when I noticed beneath the shuffling earth, buried in the shadows, something else stirred, crawling toward me, a mass of writhing shapes, countless faces emerging from the soil, mouths open and screaming, clawing at reality. They surged from the depths, taking shape once more, and in that frozen instant, I inhaled sharply, realizing I was no longer the only one facing the heart. The cursed souls were hungry, desperate for my choice, and the heart's glow flickered ominously. The creature's claws gripped the edge of my vision, and the ground tremored as those tortured souls writhed to the surface, invading my sanctuary of light. Suddenly, an overwhelming sense of dread wrapped around my heart. It wasn't just a choice between the past and freedom, but a sacrifice. Just as the anguished faces began to merge into the light, I felt a presence at my back. A cold breath slithered against my neck, like a whisper promising not salvation, but eternal damnation. The heart pulsed with urgency, its echoes battling against the howl of the creature behind me, and in the darkness surrounding us, I awaited my horrible fate. The air thickened with foreboding, and the encroaching shapes lurked closer, stretching forth their cold fingers, pulling me towards the abyss as darkness beckoned me to give in. And then, out of the swirling chaos, a familiar, mournful wail broke through the din, calling my Nemea name I had almost forgotten, urging me to embrace the shadows and cast away the light. My heart raced, a primal type of fear bubbling within me as that mournful wail wove itself through the cacophony of anguished screams. It felt as if the shadows themselves conspired to unravel me, a twisted web of despair threading through my consciousness. "Sophia," I whispered, the name a silent prayer desperately released into the dark, desperate to grasp the flickering flames of hope amidst the chaos. Yet, the shadows answered with a sinister echo, "You promised, and promises are debts that must be paid." I shuddered, and an unrelenting chill surged through me, heavier than the mist that coiled like a serpent at my feet. As I spun on my heels, searching for the source of that haunting voice, the mist reached upward, thickening until I could hardly see. Emerging through the dense fog, I caught glimpses of familiar faces, those who had once smiled with love and mirth now twisted in terror, mouths formed into unending screams that echoed across time. The air crackled with a disquieting energy, as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. In the midst of their agonized faces, I searched for Sophia, desperation mounting with each heartbeat. Each second pushed me closer to the abyss, closer to relinquishing not just my life, but her memory, her very essence slipping from my grasp. I envisioned her face, a reflection of every promise I had broken. My throat tightened, the urge to scream clawing at my insides, but I choked it back. Not yet. The weight of the heart against my palm pulsed, echoing eerily like distant thunder, its rhythm frantic, demanding. "Remember," it urged, reverberating through the stillness between the wails. "You are not yet lost." The creature behind me, a gnarled mass of twisted limbs and fetid breath, slithered closer, its rancid presence like a dark fog threatening to envelop me. A part of me longed to barter with it, cast aside my own humanity in exchange for Sophia's freedom. But another part wailed within, protesting against losing myself to the darkness that had already consumed so many. As I concentrated, the heart's glow flickered, wavering against the cold, clammy presence of the night. Igniting courage, I cleared my throat. "Sophia!" My voice broke through the haze, desperate yet tentative. The hearts of the damned pulsed with supportive resounding harmony, and the rested shadows hesitated, their grasp easing only slightly, but the moment was fleeting. The beast lunged again, and I can't remember from where I drew strength, but I felt it explode within me, raw and powerful. "This ends now!" I shouted. I ignored the creature's howls as I faced the heartbeat, raising it before me in defiance. "Tell my story," I commanded, the heart responding instantly to my emotions, brightening with the promise of justice. "Tell them how I loved and lost. Tell them how I failed you." The ground trembled violently beneath me, and I staggered just as the tortured souls began to converge around me, swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. Their cries twisted into a frenzy, amplifying into a melody of rage and sorrow. I felt their pain seep into my bones, a connection forming, deep and immovable. They sought to pull me into their agony, craving release from their endless torment. In an unexpected moment of clarity, I realized I couldn't bear this alone. I remembered their names, their fears, and the broken promise that had haunted me through time. I turned to the nearest visage, thrumming with pain and grief. "I will carry your weight with mine," I yelled, a fevered resolve flooding my voice. With each heartbeat, "I'll remember you." The heart quaked in response, sending surges of energy cascading around the clearing, each pulse igniting the darkness with a tapestry of memories, illuminated souls entwining with my own. But as hope blossomed, the creature lunged anew, this time stronger, fueled by an insatiable rage, tearing through the last remnants of light before I could react. Its claws ripped through the fabric of the heart's glow, and everything shattered, the light dimmed, the spell begun to fracture under the pressure of despair. "Feed me!" The creature shrieked, its voice blending with the wails of the damned. A sudden jolt of icy fear gripped my heart as I felt the souls pull back, their faces twisting in anticipation and dread. The heart began to dim, battling against the darkness, inching ever closer, creeping and writhing a tidal wave of hungry shadows, and I felt their desperation like an open wound. In that moment, I realized, it was not the heart alone that held the power. I had sparked a connection, igniting their story within me, yet now the darkness demanded the ultimate toll, a sacrifice. I was not just faced with a choice between freedom or confinement, I stood on the precipice, prepared to choose between my life and theirs before I could decide. A chorus of voices erupted from the depths of the ground, a single word reverberating through the air so loud it pierced through my mind like a dagger: betrayal. I glanced down in horror, realizing the clawing of faces erupted not just from anguish but from rage toward me. The creatures' screeches drowned in their fury as I felt my connection unravel. Panic flooded my veins as the heart began to dim further, and I knew I had but a fleeting instant. Would I collapse into the shadows, letting them consume me? Or would I cast them aside in hopes of escape? Just as I felt the last remnants of light flicker at the edge of darkness, an unsettling crack split the air, and a single, powerful voice broke through the tempest, reverberating with ancient authority: join us or face the consequence of your choices. The ultimatum echoed through my very core, and before I could grasp its meaning, the ground beneath me exploded into chaos, splintering downward as if the earth sought to swallow me whole, and in that abyss, the very essence of hope shattered, leaving me on the edge of an unfathomable choice. My heart pounded as I clung to the last remnants of light. The ground trembled around me, fissures erupting beneath as if the angry earth itself sought to reclaim its lost secrets. Each heartbeat pulsed in time with the feral thrum of the damned souls, their rage sharpened into a blade aimed directly at me. Betrayal! Betrayal! They screamed, their fury boiling over like molten lava, lusting for retribution. With one final tremor, the abyss yawned wide, swallowing the trembling remnants of hope I had clung to so desperately. I felt myself slipping away, dragged down into a realm where shadows whispered sweet nothings of despair. My mind screamed in protest, fighting against the pull of the void. But guilt weighed heavier than the darkness itself, a shroud that wrapped around me, suffocating and implacable. Suddenly, as the air thickened with the stench of decay and despair, I felt a cold bead of realization crash within me: the heart. The very artifact I had clasped in my hands, my last ally, felt betrayed by my hesitation. With relentless determination, I grasped it tighter, willing it to respond against the oncoming tide of shadows that lunged hungrily for my soul. Please! I shouted, a raw, primal scream escaping my lips, the echoes of the damned fortifying the escalating fear. Help us! I'll pay the price, I swear. But the will of the heart flickered uncertainly, as though it, too, sensed the vast chasm of bitterness that surrounded me. In the suffocating heat of anger and rage, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness yet radiating an otherworldly presence. The air around it shimmered with dread, and deep within its hollow gaze, secrets lay hidden, festering like wounds left to rot. You wish to bargain? It hissed, its voice a haunting melody that reverberated through my bones, chilling me to the core. The figure extended a spindly hand, indicating the souls that clamored in desperation around me. What will you give for their freedom? Your very essence? It asked with a cruel smile, fangs glistening in the twilight gloom. The souls, once allies in my plight, shifted uneasily, uncertainty shadowing their fury as they watched their savior teeter on the brink of collapse. A mass of faces twisted in anguish, some extending pleading hands towards me, some urging to flee, while others bore accusation, bitter and venomous. The creature prowled closer, scents of decay and malice swirling around it like a noxious fog. Give them hope, or take your place among them as the promised one. With a wave of its talons, it gestured towards an enormous wicker basket, ominously woven and brimming with dark enchantments. Within lies the power to secure their souls, or to sever your own fate. My breath hitched as the heart in my grip pulsed violently, asserting itself against the looming darkness. I had a choice, to plunge myself into the basket and glean its secrets, or risk everything by following a path that felt increasingly like a betrayal. But the thought of abandoning the souls beneath that grave covenant gnawed at my insides until I felt bile rise. Bitter and claustrophobic, trembling, I surveyed the malevolent maelstrom around me, the shadows swirling like a tempest eager to consume me alive. I had failed too many and had nothing left to bargain with except my own life. What if I choose to do nothing? I muttered, a hollow challenge that cut through the chaos. Would they unleash their wrath? Would the shadows sweep me away into eternal darkness? The creature laughed, a raucous sound that echoed through the nightmare, reverberating like steel striking against steel. You think you hold power? Next to the abyss, even hope is fleeting. The question remains, how deep will you sink before you find freedom? Either way, The choice is yours. With each breath, dread seeped deeper into my veins, and I stood at the crux, poised on the precipice of an unimaginable choice. Drifting glimpses of Sophia flickered in my mind, a memory both laced with sweetness and clothed in unbearable loss. I began, only to be cut off by a cacophony of wails. Rising to a fever pitch around me, "Join us! Join us!" They begged, twisting into forms as distorted as their cries, their despair binding me to this moment. Before I had a chance to scream out again, the ground heaved sharply, sending me staggering backwards. My foot caught on an unseen root, and as I fell, the chilling realization washed over me. Through the chaos, a pathway unveiled itself, raw and untouched, weaving through the thick mists beyond the looming basket. It beckoned, illuminated with a dim glow, a desperate whisper promising escape. "Choose, now!" The creature spat, teeth gleaming with malevolence as it lunged for me, arms outstretched. In that instant, the air electrified with a haunting energy. With all my heart and soul, I knew I must make my choice, but not before the shadows wrapped around me, merging the faces of lost souls into my mind as I plummeted deeper into chaos. Would I surrender my fate to the void, or would I embrace the flickering fire of salvation, no matter the cost? Then, with a surge of desperate strength, I lunged forward, toward the beckoning path. What awaited on the other side? A profound revelation or a fate worse than death? As I fell through the mist, plunging into an abyss of swirling darkness, the last voice I heard was my own echoing back at me, a haunting proclamation, "Remember, you are not yet lost." And then, silence. The air around me was thick with an oppressive silence as I plunged through the swirling mist. The depths of the void enveloped me like a shroud, my body weightless, caught in a moment where time ceased to exist. I held my breath, waiting for the next harsh impact, yet the ground never came. Instead, an unseen force propelled me forward, deeper into the tight grip of shadow. Suddenly, I found myself suspended in a dimly lit chamber, the walls pulsing with a dark light that felt almost sentient. Shadows coiled and twisted, forming grotesque shapes and elongating into spindly fingers that danced mockingly around me. I could see them now, the souls whose cries had once fueled my dread. They drifted just beyond reach, their features obscured, eyes hollow and desolate, as if they had surrendered their will to the darkness long ago. "Help us!" One whispered, a mere sigh enveloped in despair. "You can't leave us here." I turned, but the words of the damned souls fell flat against the looming horror of the chamber, and I reminded myself of the choice I had almost made. These souls, trapped in a web of grief, were no longer the tormented allies I once believed them to be. They were whispers in a storm, robbing me of the clarity needed to fight. My heart ached with the weight of their suffering. "What do you want from me?" I cried out, my voice trembling against the cacophony of their mournful wails. An answer came as a rustling sound, rising like a tide. The shadows around me echoed with laughter, sinister and taunting. With each giggle, I felt the oppressive metaphysical weight of my decision pressing down on me. My gaze darted towards a crumbling altar at the far side of the chamber, adorned with grotesque carvings that writhed and shifted as if alive. Streaks of dark energy poured from it, pooling at my feet like ink in water. Drawing closer, I noticed a reflection in the obsidian surface, a chilling visage that was monstrous and familiar, my own face twisted in anguish. It flickered, and in that moment, I felt the potent pull of the basket from which I had escaped. It called to me, a weighty connection displacing my fears and emboldening me. I had a mission, a chance to break the fetters binding those lost souls. Summoning the courage that felt thin and ephemeral, I reached toward the altar, and the shadows bristled in anticipation. My fingers grazed its dark surface, sending a surge of cold through me. An electric jolt ignited within the depths of my being, the heart still clutched tightly in my hand, pulsing rhythmically as if it shared in my horror and resolve. "Choose," the shadows hissed, swirling around me like an insidious fog. "Make your sacrifice, and claim power, the power to release them, or consume them for yourself." Visions flashed in my mind, Sophia, her laugh shimmering with brightness alongside the abyss of anguish I had tasted. And between them, me, stranded, confused, weighted down by choices unmade and a past forgotten. "No. I won't become like you." I shouted back into the darkness. Laughter erupted, a cacophonous wave that drowned me in despair. "You are already one of us, whether you admit it or not. Embrace your fate. You are lost." They chanted, a symphony that echoed with desperation and glee. Suddenly, the floor buckled beneath me, and a deep crack opened wide, revealing an even darker expanse below, shadows writhing and gnashing, beckoning me to the pit of despair. The souls shrieked in terror, their cries blending with the grotesque laughter of the lurking spirits, forming a dreadful harmony that tugged at the very edges of my sanity. What is your choice? A voice thundered over the din, the entity from the shadows looming closer, its monstrous form blurring the line of violence and pleading. Will you follow their cries, or succumb to the echoes of your own soul's despair? I felt the heart in my grasp beat erratically, a reminder of my own humanity amidst the encroaching darkness. I gritted my teeth, vision blurring from the immense weight pressing down on me. Just then, the ground surged beneath me once again, pulling me toward the abyss. It felt like the final implosion before a storm. Choose. Now, the creature's sinister voice boomed, and in that moment of dreadful reckoning, I realized the truth. This chamber was more than a prison, it was a doorway, a passage leading deeper into the curse I sought to break. In a mad rush, I felt an impulse course through me, a resolution taking root against the very marrow of my bones. I will not abandon you, I cried, voice rising above the chaos, bolstered by a surge of strength I didn't know I had. And then, the world around me twisted violently, shadows warping, the cries intensifying, and for a fleeting moment, I felt an undeniable connection with the lost souls. My grip tightened on the heart, my last defense against not only them but against the darkness that threatened to rise from the pit. But as I surrendered to my urge to fight, the shadows screamed, resonating with an intensity that felt like boiling rage, and suddenly, I found myself falling, plummeting into an ethereal void where the laughter transformed into horrid cries of rage, filled with betrayal. And as I fell, an unbearable truth coiled around my heart. I was about to unlock something more horrifying than I could have ever imagined, a secret that had been hidden even from the shadows themselves. The darkness stretched out before me, alive and beckoning, resonating with the cries of those who had come before me, forever trapped within the twisted malevolence of the cursed witch's basket. I realized they were not content, they had waited too long, and with that solemn understanding came the chilling realization that I would not be the one to break the curse. With a flash of light and the shadows swirling ferociously, I screamed, "What have I done?" just before the abyss yawned wide, enveloping me in a darkness so profound its silence swallowed my shrieks whole. I emerged, gasping, into a cold, desolate wasteland, where shadows coiled and writhed like tormented serpents in the moonlight. My body felt hollow, every nerve alight with panic, as the weight of my choices pressed down heavy upon me. The whispering winds carried the echoes of anguished souls, drowning out reason until I stumbled, disoriented, along a precipice that seemed to stretch into infinity. Betrayer! They wailed, voices rising in tumult like a sea foaming against jagged cliffs. Paralyzing dread clawed at my throat as each tortured cry twisted through the air, wrapping around my heart like a vice. The truth loomed over me, chilling and relentless. This was not an escape, I had simply crossed the threshold into the darker depths of despair. Help us! You are our only hope, a familiar voice called out above the cacophony. I closed my eyes, imagining the face behind those words. Sophia. No. The memory sharpened, slicing through my fog of confusion. Her laughter, once a balm, now echoed like a death knell. A realization struck me like lightning. This wasteland was not merely a prison, but a reflection of the souls I had forsaken. The very shadows that had once danced with delight morphed into grotesque forms, hollow stares fixated on me with unabashed hunger. The wind shifted, swirling with a sinister expectancy, and from the depths of the shadows, a shape emerged, tall and serpentine, its bared fangs glimmering like daggers poised to strike. You thought to forsake us? To leave us here in this endless void? It hissed, slithering toward me with a sickening grace. I gasped, scrambling backward, but the ground trembled, as tendrils of darkness latched onto my legs like the hands of the damned. The malevolent creature coiled closer, its eyes glinting like hellfire. You unwittingly released us. You are bound to us now, entwined in our despair. Panic rose within me, every instinct screaming to flee. I wanted to save you. To free you. I cried, though the words felt feeble, lost in the tide of their contempt. Freedom has a price, it crooned, its voice a sultry whisper tainted with malice. The shadows clustered closer, an army of faces contorted in anguish, pleading through their hollow eyes. You've become one with our grief, this darkness is your own. I clutched the heart tightly, feeling it pulse in defiance against the encroaching void. No. I won't be consumed. I bellowed, but the words faltered as the shadows surged, transforming into a cacophony of voices, hours echoing around me, filling the air with promises of redemption laced in betrayal. Then it dawned upon me the horror of what I had opened, the basket, a conduit to my torment. It was a portal, one that had awakened something primal and grotesque within me. I hadn't just released their anguish, I had embraced it, woven it into my very fabric, cursing myself in the process. The light I had hoped to wield now dimmed, extinguished by the depths of my failure. Join us, they beckoned softly, a serpent's hiss of temptation wrapped in the guise of sorrow. Together we can conquer the darkness, together we can reclaim what was lost. I felt the shadows pull at my mind, tugging at the edges of my sanity. My grip on the heart slackened ever so slightly as weariness threatened to consume me, and then it all crashed in an unrelenting wave of truth, a more sinister twist unfolding in the darkness. The heart I had held onto so tightly wasn't just a beacon of hope, it was a curse in itself, a fragment of the darkness I sought to escape. Like a thread binding me to the despair of the damned, it pulsed with their anguish. Suddenly, a vision flickered to lift a tapestry of lives long lost, woven with threads of betrayal and sorrow. Among those faces, a flicker of a life I thought I had buried long ago emerged, my own. The beast laughed, a sound echoing with razor-sharp clarity. You are the keeper of their secrets now. Their fate rests in your hands, eternally. I was trapped not merely in an inescapable realm of shadows, but in a cycle of horror that had claimed numerous souls before me. All those I had glimpsed within the basket, all their desperation, their cries, it was woven into my own essence. I had become the heart of the curse, their anguish now a part of me. No. I screamed, the truth crashing over me, paralyzing. And just as I began to understand the breadth of my connection with the shadows, a voice emerged from the depths of the darkness, a voice I recognized. Let go, Sophia urged, her face shimmering into view, barely distinguishable from the shadows that writhed and curled around her. Don't carry our pain. Our story is not yours to bear. You must break free. The shadows recoiled, a guttural wail swelling amongst them, furious and threatening. The darkness, eager for blood, surged toward me with unrelenting hunger. You cannot escape. You are one of us. They hissed, combining into a swelling, black mass that threatened to consume us both, and in that terrifying moment of clarity, dread turned to resolve. I would not yield. Yet the decision weighed heavy, a lethal choice sharp against the edges of my own mind. All those lost souls, their cries, their turmoil, it pulsed through me like wildfire, and I understood now, I would sacrifice myself for them or reclaim my essence and try to break the cycle. Summoning every ounce of strength, I clutched the heart, my heart, that wretched curse disguised as salvation. I will not be bound. I shouted, unleashing a torrent of defiance, the light within me surging to counter the darkness that had clawed its way into my being. As I unleashed the heart's pulse into the thickening shadow, the world exploded around me with blinding light, the souls echoing my purpose, their cries mingling with mine as the shadows recoiled, howling in fury. But amidst the storm, their anguish turned to clarity, and together we struck at the heart of the curse, unlocking a resurgence of power that rippled through the cursed bonds and sought to sever them. Bound together, we swelled against the shadows, burning brightly with the weight of memories, releasing my shattered heart and setting aflame the collective grief of our entwined fates. Freedom surged, and with it came unyielding resolve, the remnants of my promise intertwined with their cries. And as I felt myself being pulled into their light, the darkness raged and writhed, twisting desperately against fate. Still, it wasn't enough. Something wicked swirled before the light could fully take hold, a final trap closing in, just as I leaped forward, driven by desperate energy. I shattered the dark shadows of my own past. In the split second before the darkness could reclaim me, in the very marrow of anguish, I understood, it was not just the past I cloaked. That very essence of grief, still lingering, wasn't freeing them but forcing them back. I had to choose, to fully embrace the binding curse or let them take me along with that light. And with a final thrust of courage, as the darkness screamed, I let go. The light erupted in a blinding flash, swallowing the shadows, consuming us all. My last thought, amidst their cries merging into a crescendo of defiance, was a promise: let it be known, our agony will not echo in vain. As the light enveloped everything, for a fleeting moment, I found calm. And then as if the universe itself exhaled a chilling realization washed over me, I had ended one curse, but in the depths of darkness, something had merged, transforming not just the nature of our bindings, but awakening another slumbering horror left unspoken, and amid the enveloping silence, before I was cast into the abyss of my choices, a chilling whisper echoed back through time, "You are free but you will never escape." The ground trembled beneath me, the darkness coiling tighter, and chilling laugh reverberated, one that bore my own name just as I realized, my battle was not yet over.